BLACKPINK went from strangers to sisters to pop supernovas. They're the world's biggest girl group, turning out banger after banger. But before they could get there, Jennie, Jisoo, Lisa, and Rose had to become a family. In an otherwise ordinary Seoul neighborhood, the headquarters of YG Entertainment rise like a giant spaceship above the Han River. YG is one of South Korea's largest entertainment agencies, producing international K-pop stars, as well as, more recently, actors and models. Opened in 2020, its new complex extends 9 stories above ground and 5 below. The upper floors are brightly lit and open, meeting rooms with huge windows, an employee cafeteria, even a full restaurant. Hundreds of YG employees walk busily about. There are screens everywhere, showcasing YG's huge roster. The underground floors feel more like a secret den. This is where artists practice in dance studios, record music, and trainees mingle with the stars. And it's where BLACKPINK, the world's most popular girl group, are recording songs for their next album, their first since the early days of the pandemic. Once the album, due sometime later this year, is complete, the flurry of activity will start again, giving the YG employees something new to buzz about and sending the lives of the group's 4 members Jennie, Jisoo, Lisa, and Rose into overdrive. Jennie, who like her bandmates on this April afternoon is dressed down and wearing very little makeup, takes a deep breath before describing what's ahead. These days, I think every day, okay, how do I prepare myself for my next busy 2 years, she says, alternating between Korean and English. After the interview, she'll hop on a flight to attend Coachella and stop by the LA flagship store for the eyewear brand Gentle Monster. She's an ambassador for the brand, as well as Chanel. The other 3 members have similar gigs, for the likes of Celine, Lisa, Saint Laurent, Rose, Dior, Jisoo, and more. Just earlier this year, all 4 were gallivanting around Paris, with front row seats at Fashion Week. BLACKPINK are one of the most popular artists to ever come out of South Korea. They're the most followed music act on YouTube. On the streets of Seoul, you see them everywhere, from tiny screens in elevators to billboards on skyscrapers. Even the South Korean president has credited the group, among other cultural exports, for giving hope and happiness to many around the world. In the US, BLACKPINK have filled arenas and collaborated with stars like Lady Gaga and Cardi B. From the management and business side, we did have our view and vision to the States and outside of Asia, says Daniel Hong, the CEO of YG's US branch, who doesn't want to perform in the States. Their last LP, called Simply the Album, sold around 1.2 million copies in less than a month after its 2020 release, making BLACKPINK the first million-selling K-pop girl group. In the first quarter of 2021, YG reported an 84% jump in revenue over the previous year, largely thanks to BLACKPINK. Their massive success is part of the Korean wave, which refers loosely to the global popularity of South Korea's cultural industry. Their videos are filled with bursts of color and inventive dancing, embodying YG's characteristic dedication to swag, a term emblazoned in large letters in one of the company's bathrooms, and fiercely independent womanhood. Rather than emphasizing how cute or feminine they are, Yujing notes, BLACKPINK's confidence seems to stem from a certainty about themselves as individuals. Like, if you don't like me, you'll regret it. I'm lovable and cool, you just don't know it. In person, BLACKPINK are more down to earth. They're prone to laughter, constantly talking over one another. My mom and dad are proud of me, but I don't feel like a world star, says Jisoo in Korean. I'm the same person that started training in high school. My social standing may have changed, but to me, I'm just to me. More than anyone, we want to be ordinary girls, says Jennie. Sure, there are times when we talk about what kind of influence we could have. But what we actually love is talking about our cats, dogs, good food, and pretty places. BLACKPINK come from diverse backgrounds. Lisa, real name, LISA MANOBAN, 25, is from Thailand, a dancer and rapper who spits fierce rhymes in multiple languages. Rose, Roseanne Cheyoung Park, also 25, was born in New Zealand and grew up in Australia. She's the guitar-playing, high-note-hitting main vocalist with the golden voice, as fans love to point out. 26-year-old Jennie Kim, the group's main rapper, grew up in Seoul and New Zealand, before joining YG in 2010. She's been living in Seoul with her mother for the past year. There's no leader in Blackpink, but sometimes Jennie feels like one, calm and collected, often answering the more difficult questions on behalf of the group. And 27-year-old 𝐃𝐄𝐎 grew up in Gunpo, about 20 miles south of YG headquarters. She's the lead vocalist and an expert harmonizer, both quick-witted and philosophical in interviews. These days, Blackpink are spending as much of this comparatively quiet time as possible with family and friends. I feel like I'm recharging myself, says 𝐃𝐄𝐎. My life these days is not too busy, because we're not actively performing yet. I want to come back with music quickly. I live alone, but my parents are in the same apartment building, so we share meals together. Lisa recently returned to Bangkok for the first time in 3 years, to celebrate her birthday. My mom and dad are getting old, she says wistfully, speaking in both English and Korean. Whenever I have time, I want to return to Thailand. I don't want to waste my time. I want to see them as often as I can. Rose, who had COVID 4 weeks ago, apologizes for her dry cough while munching fried rice at that pho restaurant. As a child in Melbourne, she would play piano and guitar and sing until so late that her parents and sister Alice, who all live in Seoul now, had to take turns telling her to stop. She recently picked up her guitar for the first time in ages. In both Korean and English, she talks about recording her voice on an iPad, exploring and playing and experimenting. I hadn't been doing that for the past 2 or 3 months, she says. Caught up in life. I even told my mom, I want to be by myself for the next few days. So she didn't come over. Despite their massive success, Blackpink's path wasn't easy. And while cats, dogs, good food, and pretty places are indeed topics of discussion, they are also figuring out larger questions about their music, their individual voices, and who they are. Outside YG's bustling HQ, amid mom and pop stores, we wash your cars by hand signs, and an unmemorable apartment building called Korea Proud, life is quieter. Cherry blossoms fall like snow over the alleyways of the Hapyeongdong neighborhood. This area was Blackpink's adolescence. They spent their teenage years as trainees here, living away from their families, singing, rapping, and practicing dance routines for more than 12 hours a day. They were hellbent on getting to release music and perform in public. Debut, 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 Lisa says. That was the only thing on our minds. We were on survival mode, says Jennie. Every month, our friends were forced to leave, go home. Getting stressed, having it rough, those feelings were a luxury. What mattered was debuting. The members say they received classes devoted to mental health, as well as therapy, but ultimately, they weren't helpful. We had the same problems, so it was better to talk to each other, says 𝐃𝐿. We just endured, adds Jennie. The difficult parts of Blackpink's journey and the immensity of their achievements fade into the background when the members are all together. Blackpink are involved in every step of the creative process, from conceptual brainstorming to final styling. They're co-writers on smashes like Lovesick Girls and many others, as well as on their solo singles, some of which are massive hits. We don't just receive a completed song, says 𝐃𝐿. We are involved from the beginning, building the blocks, adding this or that feeling, exchanging feedback, and this process of creating makes me feel proud of our music. If we just received pre-made songs, it would feel mechanical. I feel more love for the process, because we say, how about adding this in the lyrics? How about adding this move in the choreography? At the heart of their music is Teddy Park, Blackpink's main producer. Blackpink in your area, the iconic phrase that pops up in many of their singles, was Teddy's doing. Appa directs all of Blackpink, says Lisa. He knows us incredibly well, she says. He pushes us hard. Again, 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 he'd say. Hip-hop is in my blood, says Lisa, who went solo for the first time with a single written by Teddy. LISA is infused with a maximalist mix of rap, EDM, brass riffs, and even traditional Thai instruments. I don't think hip-hop is just about rapping. Look at Rihanna, she could make anything hip-hop. Hip-hop means something different to everyone, says Jennie. To me, it's the spirit of cool vibes, swag, whatever words you can use. I think Blackpink's hip-hop is something the world hasn't seen before, she continues. We, 4 girls in their 20s from different backgrounds, are using Korean and English to weave pop music with a hip-hop base. 𝐃𝐿's the only member who hasn't released solo music, though there's buzz she might sometime this year. I'm not sure how much I want to go solo yet, she says. The music I listen to, the music I can do, and the music I want to do, what should I choose? I love songs with lots of instruments. I love different bands and rock music. What do people want from me? There's a chaos of conflicting questions. There's no indication BLACKPINK is anything but full speed ahead, but behind the veneer of pop perfection, the artists are still figuring out their paths as individual musicians. Now, BLACKPINK are revving up to launch new music to unleash more bangers, to further cement their place as one of greatest girl groups of all time with no end in sight. I mean, won't BLACKPINK last at least 10 more years? We'll be nearly 40 by then, Lisa says. Someday we'll get married and things like that. But then I see the Spice Girls, how they got together for a reunion concert. Can we do that too? Someday? Will I be able to dance then, like I do now? Then she laughs in her characteristically hearty way. Even if we're 70 and we have different lives, I'll still feel like I'm BLACKPINK, says Jennie. As corny as it sounds, I don't think BLACKPINK will ever end in my heart. It's a part of my family. You can't deny your family.